Did the Activision deal just take a bad turn? Every PS5 is in stock now. And get this awesome PS5 feature before it's gone forever. How's it going, everyone? Welcome to PSReady. This is the weekend video. I am finally feeling so much better after being sick for what feels like 397,000 days. I just didn't want to give any chance of getting Ray sick, so I'm doing the weekend update from home. The first story is, of course, surrounding this whole Activision deal with Xbox. It looks like things are really heating up because we heard originally, as Ray points out all the time, that this deal was supposed to be wrapped up by this June, and it looks like Xbox is really working hard to make that happen. They're putting in a ton of documents, they're subpoenaing documents from Sony, they're throwing out crazy lines to make Sony look bad, Sony's making up stuff to make Xbox look bad. It's like a whole high school lunchroom situation, and the latest line from Sony is that they literally cannot protect themselves against COD. Now, at first, I read this headline, I was like, okay, this is more BS from Sony, I don't really care, but then I read it and they actually make a really good point, and it comes down to budgets. So what Sony is basically saying in this statement is that if you take all of their first party bangers, like all the games we absolutely love, The Last of Us Part 2, Horizon Forbidden West, Gran Turismo 7, Uncharted 4, all these great games, God of War Ragnarok, the maximum average budget they've usually spent is a double digit in the millions sort of thing, whereas with Call of Duty, they put one out every year over at Activision and they spend $300 million. So Sony's sitting there like, look, this is Microsoft throwing their money around to buy a studio that provides a huge incentive for people to own a PS5, and we literally cannot compete because the average price of all of our games is around double digit millions, whereas they're in the triple digits. They're at 300 million. Now Sony could be at 99 million, but still 100 million versus 300 million, that's a $200 million difference. That's actually pretty dang crazy. With all this being said, it is looking like things are finally shifting into Microsoft's favor though, because I guess 6 companies basically came out and said, 6 big companies, including Nintendo and Valve, were like, hey, this would level the playing field in the gaming industry, which needs to happen because it's been so one-sided with Sony for so long. I think it's funny to hear Valve say that because the whole reason the Epic Games Store exists is the same argument. Epic Games CEO was like, hey, Steam and Valve have a monopoly over the PC gaming industry. I'm gonna make the Epic Games Store. I'm gonna give developers a better cut. Everyone said, who cares? Steam is awesome. They justify what they charge developers by having an awesome product, and Epic Games Store is not an awesome product. Whereas with Sony and Microsoft, I don't think it's the same deal. I think the Xbox is a pretty awesome product. I like Sony better because it has PlayStation games. I like the first party stuff over there. I also like the DualSense more, but I also play a lot on PC, which is an extension of Xbox at this point. So I think it is an awesome product, and I would really like to see this deal go through sooner rather than later so we can get back to focusing on games over on Xbox and on PlayStation, because this is taking up Sony's time too, right? We didn't get a showcase last year, and I bet this whole court proceedings thing that's going on with them and Xbox is a big reason as to why. Anyway, if you've seen all this going down and you're like, I really want to try out a PS5, get one in time for these new games coming out like Final Fantasy 16 and then Spider-Man 2, I might want to try this awesome PS Plus Extra month that has some of the best games Sony's ever included. Well, now is definitely the time to buy a PlayStation 5. I took a look at the Best Buy website. I do this from time to time and talk about it here on the channel. Lately, you've only really been able to get reliably the God of War Ragnarok bundle, which isn't bad at all. That's the best PS5 game in my opinion, at least. So getting that with the game bundled in is great. But if you're not really interested in playing God of War, you could just get a regular disc edition PS5 or a digital edition PS5, get PS Plus Extra, and download a bunch of games with your subscription. You haven't been able to do that lately though, because as I just mentioned, the only available PS5 lately has been that God of War Ragnarok bundle. Well, tides are turning, things are changing. You can now get every single PS5 over on bestbuy.com, which is awesome, and I'm going to highly suggest getting the disc model, not the bundle with God of War. Get the disc model and use that money that you were going to spend on God of War and maybe a PS Plus subscription, get an SSD, because SSDs are also on sale right now over on Best Buy, which is great. Now I picked out 3 options for you guys. They're all within the same price range, so it's really coming down to brand loyalty and what's available. At the time of making this video, every one of these drives is available for purchase, so they might go in and out of stock though because they're on sale. Starting with the WD Black SN850 2TB drive with heatsink, that is only going to cost you $200. Now, over the past few months, we've definitely seen these drives coming down to like 170, 160. You've seen them even go as low as 150 if you had a first responder discount active, but they've really settled out, especially over the past couple months with Christmas being over and everything. So $200 for a 2 terabyte drive that's as fast as you need it to be for your PS5. I think that is a great price. Now, my pride and joy, my favorite pick here that I'm going to recommend next though, is the Samsung 980 Pro. You knew it was coming. This is actually $20 cheaper than the WD Black at $180, and this is the drive I use. I use gameplay a lot in these videos that you probably see from The Last of Us, the Callisto Protocol, Dead Space Remake. I use it all the time. All of that was recorded directly to my Samsung 980 Pro. I record basically everything I do on my PS5 to that drive just to have B-roll footage for these videos, and it is holding strong. I've had it for about 2 years at this point, and I love it. I think this is something that if and when the PS5 Pro comes out, if it has a bigger SSD capacity than something like my current PS5, I might swap this 980 Pro over to my laptop. I also am thinking of just picking one up because at $180 for a 2 terabyte drive that's as reliable and speedy as this one, you literally can't go wrong. Now, this next one is one that I'm kind of like a hater on for no reason. I remember trying it during our big SSD roundup. I'm just not sure if I remember not liking it for some reason. It might have been slow or something like that. It's also the most expensive at $240, but if you want the Seagate option, like if you've been using Seagate drives your entire life, your USB 3.0 drives on your PS4 Pro, those were all Seagate, and you could not live without getting a Seagate SSD. This one is also on sale, again, $240. My vote obviously goes to the Samsung 980 Pro, the reigning champ. I have heard though that the 990 Pro, which is available now, I'm pretty sure, and more expensive, does not work as well. It's had some issues. People have been having to send them back. So that kind of explains why the 980 Pro got an extended lease on life here over at Best Buy, but I would highly recommend that drive. I have no problems recommending it, but you know, I got a WD Black in my laptop right now. That's also great as well. So you got 3 options here. My picks: 980 Pro, WD Black, and then the Seagate Firecuda 530. That's like the third choice if the other two are out of stock, especially because it's more expensive. And of course, the PS5s, the SSDs, all of it is linked down in the description. And if you use those links, it really helps me out. I get a little bit of a kickback, and I really want to pick up Resident Evil 4 Remakes Deluxe Edition. So make me feel okay buying that game by helping me out using those links. So when I was scanning the internet for all the articles I wanted to talk about today, I found one on the PS Plus collection, and it just like warped back into my memory that that thing still exists. With all the people getting PS5s right now, whether it's that bundle, it's the digital edition, the disc edition, whatever it is, and potentially getting a disc drive detachable version later on this year, you're going to want to take advantage of the PS Plus collection before it goes away. If you don't know what this is, it's basically a collection of all of the best PS4 games that have PS5 patches. You can add them to your account, and once you add them, they pretty much stay there forever, which is great. The problem is you can't do it unless your PlayStation Network account logs in on a PS5. So back when the PS5 came out, people were using their friends' PS5s. People were selling logins on eBay. Like, you would pay for a login. They would log into your PSN account on their PlayStation. Then they would add all the games to your account from the PS Plus collection and then log you out. That's a little risky. Long story short, Sony was not happy about that and basically banned all the people doing that. So you can't really do that anymore. So basically, if you have a PS5 now, there's no excuse not to add a lot of these games to your account. Now, there is a lot of crossover with a lot of these games coming to PS Plus Extra. So if you have PS Plus Extra, you might not be as tempted to add them to your account. But what I'll say there is the PS Plus Extra library, those games can go away, right? Like, some games have already left the PS Plus Extra library, and once they're gone, you got to wait for them to come back or fully purchase the game. It's the same setup that Xbox uses with Game Pass. Whereas with PS Plus collection, once you add them to your account, they work like essential games. They're in your account while you're paying for PlayStation Plus. And the stuff that's included is great. You've got Resident Evil Village, you've got Final Fantasy 15, you've got Horizon Zero Dawn, you've got God of War, like some really damn good games. So yeah, my big PSA here is that Sony is getting rid of this on May 9th, 2023. So you should definitely log into the PlayStation 5, go on the PlayStation Store, and add any of these games you don't already have to your account before they're gone forever, because there's going to be no way to do it. And that's just like giving up on stuff you've you've already paid for, right? Like, you paid for PlayStation Plus. Take advantage of this opportunity while you have it. That's my big soapbox PSA for you guys. PS Plus collection going away on May 9th, 2023. Make sure you grab the games before they're gone, because the games are very, very good. And the last news story I have for you guys today is basically bouncing off of this whole PS6, PS5 Pro, PS5 Slim situation, which, if you haven't heard, basically what happened is Tom Henderson leaked the detachable disc drive PS5, which is definitely coming. I am like totally positive we will probably see an announcement for that by E3 this year. So by June, we will have this new PS5 announced. I would personally guess it'll happen after May 9th, because Sony doesn't want to get a huge influx of people who just bought PS5s and then redeem a bunch of free games instead of spending money on the PlayStation Store, because as we all know, these game companies, when they make consoles like the Xbox Series X or the PS5, they sell them either at break even or a loss. So where they make their money back is selling games, right? Because if I'm EA and I sell Jedi Fallen Order for $20 on the PlayStation Network, 30% of that profit goes directly to Sony. So that's what Sony really wants in the long run here, not people redeeming free games on the PS Plus collection. So yeah, the detachable disc drive model, it's just basically streamlining the two PS5s so they don't have to manufacture two different things. What they're going to do is manufacture one PS5 that's technically just a digital one, and then they're going to also manufacture the disc drive. And then some of them are going to have the disc drive already attached, some of them are not. And then if you want the disc drive later on, you can go and pick it up with your hard-earned money. Personally, I'm a physical media guy. I buy 4K Blu-rays because at the very least, I get a code for Movies Anywhere. They add them over to Apple TV Plus automatically, so I get the 4K streaming option, but I still watch 4K Blu-rays. I still play games off of the disc, mainly because even though a lot of games have day one patches these days, you can still get most of the game on your PS5 from the disc and then download a much smaller portion of it when the patch comes out. So yeah, when everyone's slamming the PS Network to like try and download patches or their entire game, I have way less to download and I'm in the game faster. So yeah, big proponent of physical media. If you're waiting to get a PS5 and you're planning on getting this disc drive included one, I would just get a PS5 now while they're still in stock, because everything we've heard about this PS5 Slim is that it's going to be no different really from the current PS5. So why wait a few months when you could go get one now? If you're going to get a digital one, I guess I would wait, because then you can attach the disc drive later on. At the time we were hearing all of this, Tom Henderson basically said that he's heard more at this point about the PlayStation 6, and that made him assume that we might not be getting a PS5 Pro. And that might have been a quick little tactic from him to try and get someone to leak the PS5 Pro to him, because he hadn't heard any info on it. He's saying, hey, my opinion at this point, based on what I've heard, is that we're going to skip the PS5 Pro, go straight to the PS6, and then someone comes out and says, hey, no, wait, I'm working over at Sony. I'll leak the PS5 Pro to you. This thing is definitely happening. That's exactly what happened. So the PS5 Pro is going to come out allegedly next year. So we're going to get the PS5 Slim this year and the Pro next year. That's kind of like a 50-50 thing for me, because while yes, I love new hardware, I'm excited for new hardware. I want to see what Sony can do with the Pro model of the PS5, which is already so powerful. We're 2 years into this thing's life cycle and they have barely taken advantage of the like power of this device. So yeah, I'd like to see this console that I spent $500 on really pushed to its limit. I want to see what it can really do. And honestly, the only game I feel like that's even gotten it close to being at its limit at this point is Returnal, and that unfortunately is a game that no one played for some reason, even though it's absolutely incredible, like a solid 9 out of 10. On the other hand, Sony allegedly is going to fix one of its biggest broken promises with the PlayStation 5 so far, which is ray tracing at 60 FPS with this PS5 Pro, which honestly, I don't know, guys. We had the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X last generation, and their whole marketing on both of these consoles was true console quality 4K gaming. And as we all live to see, they not only never really managed to hit true 4K, it was all just checkerboarded up stuff from like 1440p or even 1080p sometimes. They didn't get anywhere close to 60 FPS with any of those games. So basically what the PS4 Pro was what the PS4 should have been at launch, right? Like it was a console that could run games solidly at 1080p 30 FPS, and it did its job at that perfectly. But the marketing on that was true 4K in games. So looking at this PS5 Pro and hearing that the rumor is they're going to have ray tracing at 60 FPS, they're going to have 4K 60, I'll believe it when I see it. I just struggle to see how a $500 to $600 console is going to get anywhere close to that without making some major sacrifices in the background. Now, where I stand to be corrected is that Sony has some really good technology they're using with the PSVR 2. It's called foveated rendering, where it's like using the PS5's power to render stuff in real time so that everything outside of your peripheral vision is super low res, and then when you move your eye or move the headset in that direction, it automatically switches it to high res assets. And because of the SSD and the CPU in the PS5, it's able to do that so quick that you don't even notice. And that technology really works. I'm just personally like, why do a Pro model if really what you're going to do is give us the same thing that we just got, right? It's going to be a taste of ray tracing at 60 FPS, probably at 1080p, and then it's going to be like 4K 60, a taste of that. And then when the PS6 comes out, that'll be like the marquee selling point of that console, right? Like that'll be the baseline like we saw with the PS5 versus the PS4 Pro. The two biggest things I really hope for with the PS5 Pro though are a size reduction of the console. I really want them to make it smaller but keep that general look and feel, and also give me a black version at launch. Do the Xbox 360 Elite treatment where the launch unit, the core unit, and the Pro model were both white. One of them came with an HDD, one didn't, and then they did the Elite a couple years later. That was a black model of the console that came with a bigger hard drive and a bunch of games. It was sweet.